Silver Park Christian Church grew out of Bulwer Christian Center, which was born in the early 80s. I was working with Pastor Derek van der Merwe, and after that, Neil joined us, Basil joined us, Rick Smith came on board, and we had a wonderful team.
We just had a humming, ready church, really. It was packed. It was totally multiracial.
They also had Bible school. They had the school which was called Alpha and Omega, if I'm not mistaken. They had a newspaper that was called El Shaddai. So things were happening.
It was a vibrant church. Everyone was just on fire, and the music was good.
It was the church to belong to in Bulawayo at that time.
After 2 years, Derek felt led to move to the States. And so he left what we then called the Boys Brigade in charge.
So we were young guys in a big church, and so Richard got hold of a bunch of visiting speakers from South Africa and all kinds of America.
And we thought that that was the way to go. And so we would bring in various speakers to try and bolster our confidence and the numbers, not realizing that the foundation of what was being taught in those days was taking us away from the very truths that we'd learned as young Christians. So our church grew, became very popular, and was well known.
It was a big church. It was welcoming on one side, but also it was very segregated in terms of social structures, racial structures.
The church had 2 services. So there was a service at 8 in the morning, 8:30, and another one at 10:30. This was meant to, because the numbers were big. I think the church had over 1,000 people. So to afford everyone an opportunity, they created 2 meetings.
On the outside, everything was so good, looked so good, and the ushers and the music, and it was perfect. But there was, but at the top, there was absolutely problems.
Because we had the wrong foundation, and it was simply copying what the men around us had taught us, and that was a man's ministry, his personal ministry, was the most important thing. And so each one of us, while in church, we also were pursuing our different ministries, because that's what God had called us to do. And that caused all sorts of divisions and tensions within the leadership. Until by 1988, we were desperate.
Richard was concerned about the church. He was traveling all over looking for a father. Yeah, it was not gelling.
And I think all of us, we wanted a father figure. We realized we needed somebody that was mature, had really understanding of the church, and that's how it is.
By your grace, I'm saved. By your grace, I stand.
At that time, we were currently working with Dr. Fred Roberts from Durban Christian Center. And so was Brother Mickey Hardy. Both of us were relating to Dr. Roberts, but we'd actually never met until 1988-89. At a conference, I met Brother Mickey, and our hearts bonded. And we knew we had a common heart. I liked what he said, and we became very good friends. I then went to Mauritius, and it was on the second trip, that I realized that something very special was happening at the church there. And it became clear to me that it was what they were teaching and preaching and living, which was the work of the cross, the surrendered life, the fullness of what we would call the work of the cross today. And it impacted me enormously. And I realized that that was the truth that had been missing in our relationships. I came back, spoke to our leadership. They weren't quite sure, but they invited Brother Mickey.
When Mickey came, I remember to this day those first meetings, when he began to preach about having a pure heart, but we can't have a pure heart without the grace of God.
He brought such a simple message. In fact, it was too simple. All he was saying is, you need to open your heart, open your heart. We didn't even know we had hearts.
And I remember seeing the real suffering of leadership as they were genuine men of God who were now confronted with the simplicity of deny yourself and have a pure heart. It's not about what you're sharing with the church, it's what is real to you.
And with all that, the message of the cross brought, obviously, this flamboyant church that had everything accordingly, every T crossed, every I dotted, started falling apart.
So after hearing the message, we thought that people would be so excited, they would be wanting to come with us, they would be clapping their hands. The reverse happened. We lost about 70% of our congregation in 6 weeks. They literally walked out the door. And surprise, surprise, the people who owned the building also kicked us out. So very quickly, we found ourselves on the street. Now we'd lost our building, we'd lost our pride, we'd lost everything, and we were looking for a place to hire. Having been the big boys in town that everybody wanted to imitate, we were now hiring a hall. And we had to start again. So during the 80s, our church had become, Bulwer Christian Center, the building had become too small. And we knew we had to move. And so I kept on looking for a building to buy, what can we do, land to buy, whatever. And I'd made friends with an architect in town who, actually it was because I pestered him so much that he finally went to city council and he found this piece of land that we're currently owning. It was set aside as community land because it's got so much clay on it. And he came and he offered it to me. He said the council are willing to let you have it as 5.2 hectares at a very good price of $40,000, but you are going to struggle to build on it. I said, amen. Paid him the $40,000 and we owned the land.
There was a family that knew our brother Basil O'Connell Jones. They left a little bit of money of their estate that helped us to buy the land. And then from there, we just saw miracle how the Lord provided.
So we decided that we were going to move onto our property, and for cash, we were going to build our church. We had been to Kwekwe, where we had seen a company that built barns for farmers, and we took that barn, we took that design, a great big steel barn with a big roof and no walls, and they use it for tobacco actually, and that is what we used as the basic structure.
I started going around the town to find people who could perhaps give us advice as to where we should put the land and the levels and everything. Once that was decided, we started to dig the holes, we put the concrete feet. I knew nothing about this.
One of the guys in the church, a brother called Mark Dinsdale, was running a small company renovating homes. And God spoke to him about closing his business, moving on site as the site manager. He did that as a step of faith.
It was quite an amazing venture all around. Peter Mackenzie and myself started out measuring out the foundations, and that in itself was quite interesting.
You used to dig. I mean, I'm 5'6" or 5'8". I think it was almost chest level to me. Was it 1.5 meters or something like that? And 1 meter. And you can imagine digging the clay, and all the men had to get their hands on deck in the digging. Didn't matter whether you're a pastor, whether you're an MD or a CEO of a business. When it came to the site, everybody came.
When we laid the slab for the floor, we did that over 4 days, over Easter period, and people came.
There was no level of anybody being anybody more important. That it was the work that needed to be done. I mean, I remember Peter Mackenzie in the foundation with a pick, and I was picking behind him. And because, I mean, it's 30 years ago, so I was strong in those days.
And so you finish work at 5, get home, have your little meal or whatever, and straight you go and give yourself to the site. Weekends we were on site. But it was so new but so fresh, in the sense that there was just that community that was being built. We didn't understand what we were doing. I didn't even know the plan of the church. I didn't even know anything. All I wanted was just to be a part of what was happening.
At one stage, I remember Peter Mackenzie, Pastor Peter Mackenzie, was in charge at the site, and he was in charge, and then there were other people in charge. So the church provided free labor for anything that needed to be done, which needed cheap labor. We were the labor. So someone will come in early, someone who says, please, we need to do something. Take those bricks, go and pile them up there. A big pile. We'll pile up, take the bricks, go and pile them. And when Peter Mackenzie comes, says, who said you must move them there? I want them there. And we will move them from there. I tell you, with attitude, without attitude, it was amazing.
We used to take time off lunchtime and bring our snacks and our teas and look forward to coming to meet under the shed. And we used to just serve the guys, everyone that was on the building.
People would come in hot, sit around together, having lunch together, and it broke the barriers. You know, my generation, we've come out, we are so plastered with the color of a skin. And with the building of that church, it just melted all of that away, because it was work that needed to be done, and everybody got in and did whatever they could.
I mean, some amazing things happened. One of them was the whole community was watching us. These black folk, these white folk, all these folk working together every day at the site. It was a talk of the town. And I would go to town and I'd ask a company, can I hire your JCB, please? I never asked for money. I never asked for favors. That is our policy. And when they discovered who it was, they would either give me half price or they would send in machinery to be a support. We'd get the equipment, and it was the community in Bulawayo that helped us so much with things like that. One of the biggest miracles was when we were doing our car park. We had to prepare it to have the tar put down, and we didn't have the money to do proper compacting and the depth of all the decomposed granite, and we couldn't find the big vibratory roller that we needed, the great big 10-ton. It wasn't available. In fact, it was out at Nyamandlovo. So we purposed to work all night with our little ball mags, running up and down, wetting the soil, seeing what we could do. But I'd been to the contractor and asked him. He said, sorry, it's out, 40 k's out of town. I didn't know, but he went to his opposition. He asked them for their low bed because his was broken, and 9:30 that night, that truck arrived with that 10-ton roller. It did all our car park and then disappeared at 6 o'clock in the morning. No charge, just we want to help you. The next morning, along came the guys with the tar, and they sprayed the car park, which has lasted us now for 30 years.
It was just miracle after miracle, as in we never knew where the money was going to come from or some of the machinery, and God just provided the whole way along, whether it was people within the church or people outside of the church. There were so many people outside the church that had nothing to do with the church that actually lent us machines or advice, and it was just amazing. And the money side of it as well, it was just like, right, well, we've used that up, where's the next coming from? And sure enough, the Lord would provide the next amount of money, and it was just incredible. I can remember Richard and I shaking our heads a few times with, what happens now? But it just was amazing.
Because we had decided to only go for cash, we came to a point where we had to paint the building, and we had no cash. It was one of those, we got a deadline, now we're going to paint the building, and the money's run out. So I went to the paint shop in town, and on credit, I organized all the paint we needed for the roof, the walls, everything. And I gave them a payment date, which was about 2 weeks down the road. So the payment day was on a Monday, and we came to the weekend beforehand. And on the Saturday, there was no money. On the Sunday, there was no money. And Sunday night, I was lying awake, looking at the ceiling, wondering how I'm going to find all that cash. 5 o'clock, and we never discussed it, by the way. We never made the need known. 5 o'clock on Monday morning, there was a little pop-up at my gate. I walked outside, and there was a man. He looks up and down the road, left, right, to see if I'm watching, opens his boot, and pulls out this bag of cash. It was the exact amount for the paint. I was like, what? I walked in on Monday morning, 8 o'clock, to the paint shop like a big deal. Here's your money. God has come to the party. It was very nice. But those are the things that we saw.
I remember one time there was a lady, she is late now, moved by the Lord. She's an old lady, very old lady. She stood in front of the church and she talked about how when they built the temple in the Old Testament, people gave many things. And she said, challenged the ladies and said, we have a lot of jewelry that we don't use. Why don't we give? And she just went to the front of the church. She was frail, walking there. Somebody was holding her. She lifted the tip of her skirt and asked all the ladies with rings that they didn't need and jewelry to come and give. And they came.
I think the greatest testimony of the building was the way people in the church rose up, young and old, people who were, businessmen, wealthy businessmen, to people who were, laborers in different fields. Everybody came together and did whatever they could. And even down to, putting people up on the roof painting.
So I was in the team in charge of painting the roof. And so, I mean, we were all sort of in our 50s. So it was the older ladies. I think that's why everybody was so impressed. Because, and you know what, the thing I learned painting that roof, it was exhilarating. Because when the roof's on and we're painting the roof, we're well into the, establishment of the church.
There was such a freedom. That's why there was that joy. There was such a freedom coming together. And that's where we met people like Babette.
And she was an artist. That was her trade. She was a teacher and so on. Very gifted woman. And so we asked her to come down to see if she could give some, sense of, aesthetics to the place.
When Babette was building that wall, she drew every single brick on a sketch. But the reality of taking that and putting it up on the wall, it obviously changed with dimensions and whatever. So the scaffolding was all up, and she and Simon Back would work together on this wall.
So I was helping her with that, and a lot of the time arguing and debating, but we had a lot of fun, and I learned a great deal from Babette during that time.
I remember they pulled it down a few times, put it up again, pulled it down, but it became what it is today. But they did a great job.
And it was just little things like that, which really was the provision of the Lord. It was amazing. We had a whole bunch of people that came from the church in France, on Reunion Island, to come and help. Some guys came across from Mauritius with different skills to help.
And what was amazing was the commitment. These guys used to take loans to buy tickets to come and help us. So that's where you saw that the true, in some places you pay for that, whatever, but these people used to give their lives to come to help us to see the church come to where it is today.
Slowly, as you watch it, it affects you in a way, because you kind of think, okay, I've never ever seen that being done. I've seen people working, but I haven't seen people give up, leave their families, leave their countries to come and get involved in a project for free. And I remember Shamim working in the painting the toilets. And for me, it was at 11:30, I think. I said, hey, listen, I'm going because I had worked the following day. And the guy stayed there until about 4 o'clock in the morning, just painting. That's the dedication that was in his heart for that project.
Je me rappelle, et je travaillais, j'avais pas de limite quoi. Je travaillais même les soirs, je voulais terminer. Et un soir, je savais pas comment ça se passe sur les chantiers là-bas. Un soir, j'étais en train de travailler arrivé très très tard dans la nuit, presque le matin. Il faisait tellement froid et que je ne pouvais même pas ressentir mes mains, mes pieds tellement il faisait froid. Et j'ai dû aller rentrer dans mon sac de couchage et aller dormir dans l'auditorium. Et à cette époque-là, l'auditorium n'était pas complètement fini. Il y avait des ouvertures et donc c'était comme une boule comme ça pour pouvoir me réchauffer le lendemain matin quand ils sont arrivés. Et ils ont vu une boule dans une couette comme ça dans l'église et ils ne comprenaient pas c'était quoi, mais c'était moi qui étais dedans.
Thereafter, good times came. Building is finished. Now we are heading towards the dedication of the building.
And so when our opening came, Brother Mickey came with Sister Audrey. It was such a joy to have them and to celebrate together the faithfulness and the goodness of the Lord and the fact that our church had risen from the grave, as it were, risen out of the dust. We had a home, and hello, Bulawayo, here we were.
Come into your house with thanksgiving in my heart. I come into your courts with an everlasting joy.
It was the most amazing atmosphere. And remember, people had felt to be together, and now we are coming into this new building together. And we've been working on it together. It was amazing.
If my memory serves me well, there was like 1,200 people in that auditorium. I remember our brother Mickey preached about the fact that this would be like an oasis of love and restoration for people when they come to the auditorium, to the church.
It was just a miracle, the whole thing. Because when we finished the building of that church, we had no debt.
It was such an exciting project. You could not be involved. If you were part of the church, it was the most powerfully forming, building relationship, not just with cement and bricks. It was building lives.
I mean, we saw prejudice flying away. We saw people just linking. We saw people confronting each other, people forgiving each other, people repenting. I mean, it was amazing. It was, in the spirit, it was a beautiful sight.
I think it's very, very significant that where there's been this move of God and something new being built in the hearts of the people, you have this physical construction which you can see each and every day as a reminder that this is what God did.
There's a message to declare to the corners of the earth. It's the message of the cross of Jesus Christ.
God impressed upon our heart as a leadership Isaiah chapter 54 verses 2 and 3, which speaks about, enlarging our tent, spreading out our stakes, our cords rather, strengthening our stakes, and then going beyond that. And we understood that God did not want us to focus just as a local church on who we were, but rather we had to be willing to sow people, to sow leaders, and to sow be into the big vision that God had far beyond our church.
Over the years, as Brother Mickey has come, he has always said how this church in Zim or in Bulawayo is an apostolic church and it will send people. And we've seen that happen.
We've seen Pastor Neil Martin being sent to go and take care of the church in Sarasota in America. We've seen Pastor Bezel Cornell Jones being sent to go and take care of the church in Durban. We've seen Pastor Mackenzie being sent to the UK, being sent to South Africa. But we have seen the gospel consolidating.
The church here in Selborne Park in Bulawayo has been a key part and player in that, in the growth of the churches. The 3 churches we have in South Africa are a direct result of what happened here in Bulawayo. The church in Botswana was a direct result. The churches many different places. The churches in UK is a direct result. Most of your English-speaking European countries, somewhere, somehow, you can link back to here. So that word about stretching the cords and lengthening the cords and so on was prophetic, way beyond just the building in town. but has had a far-reaching consequence, and still does.
There's an African saying which says, it takes a village to raise a child, and it takes a team to build a church.
And you see, when you look at a building, you see bricks that are put in place. The bricks are committed for life. The brick doesn't say after 3 months, now I'm out of here. He's there for life. That's being built. And that's the church that he wants to build in these last days. When God raises up people who understand the way he builds, it's not for a season, it's for life.
So 30 years down the road, we look back and we see how faithful God has been to the vision that he put in our hearts as we walk together with the apostolic ministry in the propagation of the gospel. The testimony of where we were and what God's done in our lives the last 30 years has not only given us a footprint, it's given us a respect and a voice in our nation that has become very effective. And we only can thank the Lord for his faithfulness.
Wosani sintumise, wosani sijabule, uJesu sindisi, utetele zono zetu, manikumbulu tando lwake, wosani, wosani, manikumbulu musa wake, wosani, wosani. Utetelele zono zetu, wosani.